Is resurrection possible? Or is it just a metaphorical way to describe the divine influence? Is it common across different religions and beliefs? And how does science explain it? Let's explore ancient Egyptian wisdom, Hindu beliefs, the Bible, and scientific perspectives to seek similarities and differences, and perhaps even uncover answers to these profound questions. Each tradition brings a unique perspective to resurrection, to the journey of the soul, and the deeper meanings and impacts on its culture. Before we dive in, please like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who might enjoy it. Your support helps me a lot, and I truly appreciate it. The cornerstone of ancient Egyptian belief is the Osiris myth, dating back to the Old Kingdom period of Egypt, 2686 to 2181 BCE. The resurrection created the path to the afterlife, a way of salvation. The myth of Osiris is a central narrative in ancient Egyptian religion, symbolizing death, resurrection, and eternal life. Osiris, a god associated with fertility, was betrayed and murdered by his envious brother Seth, who sought his throne. Seth dismembered Osiris's body into 14 pieces and scattered them across Egypt. Isis, Osiris's devoted wife and sister, set out on a dangerous journey to recover and reassemble his body. Assisted by her sister and also Osiris's wife Nephthys and the god Anubis, his son. Using her powerful magic, Isis managed to find all but one of the pieces. The missing piece was Osiris's phallus, which was later replaced with a golden prosthesis. Anubis reassembled the body. To restore Osiris's life, Isis utilized the Eye of Horus, also his son, a powerful protective symbol and amulet in Egyptian tradition since then. The Eye of Horus, also known as the Wedjet, represented healing and protection and was crucial in the resurrection ritual. It symbolized the restoration of Osiris's vitality and was believed to provide the necessary magical protection and power for his return to life. Osiris was resurrected by Isis but could not return to the world of the living. Instead, he became the ruler of the afterlife, overseeing the judgment and eternal fate of souls. His transformation into the Lord of the afterlife established him as a deity who provided a model for personal salvation and eternal life. Based on Osiris's resurrection, the whole burial ritual was created, with mummification mirroring Osiris's reassembling and resurrection process. The famous beard of pharaohs is Osiris's beard, a symbol of divine eternal nature that pharaohs tried to give themselves by imitating the divine ancestor. The concept that time and death were introduced to the world as a consequence of Osiris's murder is a fascinating aspect of the Osiris myth and reflects deeper philosophical and religious ideas within ancient Egyptian thought. According to ancient Egyptian beliefs, the time before Osiris's death was characterized by a harmonious and eternal existence. In this primeval state, there was no death, decay, or temporal limitation. Osiris, as a god of fertility and agriculture, presided over an age of abundance and stability. This period was marked by divine order and everlasting life, where the cycle of life was continuous and uninterrupted. This concept is supported by the bold hypothesis that those who were called gods in ancient Egypt were representatives of another, more advanced civilization, perhaps even the preceding earthly one. This could explain their distinctive appearance, such as their great height, which in traditional Egyptology is typically interpreted as a symbol of higher status, or their unusual skin color, e.g. blue or yellow, which may signify gold, their longevity compared to humans, and their sensory and metaphysical abilities. These abilities, for instance, correspond closely to those of ancient sages and yogis described in the Vedas, who lived in previous yugas, particularly in the Satya Yuga. Texts like the Vedas, Upanishads, and later commentaries like the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali provide detailed accounts of extraordinary abilities known as siddhis. These abilities are often associated with advanced spiritual development, typically attained through intense meditation, yogic practices, and self-realization. It is believed that ancient beings, especially in the Satya Yuga, the age of truth and purity, possessed these remarkable abilities more naturally due to their spiritual elevation. The 8 main siddhis are: Anima, becoming smaller than an atom; Mahima, becoming larger than the universe; Garima, becoming heavy; Laghima, becoming lighter than air; Prapti, reaching any location; Prakamya, fulfilling desires; Ishitva, control over nature; Vashitva, control over others. Beyond these 8 main siddhis, often called the Ashta Siddhis, Hindu and yogic texts discuss additional siddhis that ancient yogis and sages were believed to attain through spiritual practice. These include powers related to healing, transformation, and even influencing life and death, such as Kaya Kalpa, immortality or longevity; Parakaya Pravesha, entering another body; Sanjivani, reviving the dead; Durasravan, hearing from afar, remotely; Duradarshan, seeing from afar, remotely; Vaksiddhi, speech manifestation; Bhavana Siddhi, power of manifestation; Divya Drishti, divine sight or clairvoyance; Kamavasaitva, control over desires, freedom from material; healing powers, to cure diseases or injuries in oneself or others, physical or mental. Today, there are few siddhis, or abilities resembling them, left, albeit in more subtle, limited or truncated forms. For example, Vashidva, control over others, as extreme charisma, or even mass hypnotic ability; Durasravan, hearing from afar remotely; or Duradarshan, seeing from afar remotely, as occasional insights; Bhavana Siddhi, power of manifestation, which is popular today in the form of visualization; or Divya Drishti, divine sight or clairvoyance, as the sixth sense. While these abilities today are subtler and less dramatic than those described in ancient texts, many people, especially those with heightened intuition or deep meditation practices, do seem to display mild versions of these capacities. Scientific research in fields like parapsychology, neuroscience, and psychology even explores phenomena that align with these siddhis, such as intuition, non-local perception, and the mind's impact on matter. In essence, traces of these siddhis remain in the modern world, manifesting as enhanced intuition, influential presence, or occasional flashes of remote perception. While they may not reach the legendary levels described in ancient texts, these capacities continue to inspire curiosity and exploration into the mysteries of consciousness. In this way, there are notable connections between ancient Egyptian and Vedic/Hindu traditions. And if to take them into account, the contradictions in ancient beliefs regarding absence of time, resurrection, travels between worlds, and magical powers over nature become more prosaic and less metaphorical. And resurrection could be a less unbelievable, but more realistic process if we accept the idea of siddhis. Therefore, Osiris's myth could be more of a historical event than a fairy tale, even though not without exaggeration and embellishment. You may watch my other video about the concept of time, where different levels of time are explored based on Vedas, religion, and science. Link in the description. A similar approach can be applied to understanding the skin color in depictions of both ancient Egypt and ancient India, if we accept the idea that their gods were representatives of another civilization, not imaginary figures. Interestingly, the blue skin often depicted in deities could potentially be explained by a hypothetical difference in blood structure, where copper-based compounds were used to transport oxygen instead of iron-based ones. Some organisms, like squid and octopuses, indeed have blue blood due to hemocyanin, a copper-containing molecule that serves a similar purpose to hemoglobin in humans. While iron oxides in hemoglobin turn blood red when oxygenated, copper oxides in hemocyanin give blood a blue color. This suggests that what we now interpret as symbolic in ancient depictions may have had a basis in a real biological distinction. Additionally, this might also explain the sudden transition to sedentary agriculture in human history, since cereals are a source of copper, not iron, in contrast to hunting, which provided food rich in iron, so necessary for human hemoglobin. Returning to Osiris, his murder by his brother Seth marked a fundamental shift in the cosmic order. With Osiris's death, the concepts of time and death entered the ancient Egyptian world. If considering the idea that gods were representatives of another civilization, with much longer lifespans, then these gods could seem immortal, eternal to earthly humans. Even in the Bible we can read about Adam and several generations after lived up to 1,000 years. This way, Osiris's death could create this conceptual change in understanding of the nature of gods. They appeared mortal, and it started the myth that there was no death before Osiris's murder. Even the annual flooding of the Nile, tied to the mythology of Osiris, became seen as a manifestation of his death and resurrection, highlighting renewal and the cyclical nature of life and death. Osiris's rebirth was often depicted in art, showing his skin in green, symbolizing renewal and eternal life. This story signifies eternal life and rebirth for the deceased, influencing Egyptian views on resurrection and the afterlife. It formed not only the after-death rituals, but also the idea of the afterlife itself. Mummification was invented as a sacred ritual aimed at preserving the body as a vessel for the soul. The opening of the mouth ceremony was performed on the dead to restore sensory abilities, allowing the soul to be reborn, mirroring the moment Isis breathed life into Osiris. These rites were mystical practices aimed at preparing the soul for its resurrection in the afterlife. The hymn to Osiris and spells from the Book of the Dead were used to guide the soul, protect it from dangers, and enable resurrection. Specific chants were recited to call upon the god's protection and to reanimate the deceased, especially by invoking Osiris, the archetype of resurrection. The journey through the underworld was filled with symbolic battles, where deities like Anubis and Osiris protected the soul. Amulets, especially those bearing the Ankh, symbolizing life, or scarabs, were placed on mummies to guide and protect the soul. In this way, resurrection became a passage to a new, perfected life in the afterlife, rather than a return to the earthly world. The Osiris myth reinforced that the afterlife was attainable through virtue, ritual, and devotion, showing that death could be transcended. Osiris's resurrection symbolized eternal life and the cyclical nature of existence, shaping the Egyptian view of death as a transition rather than an end. Ra's daily journey is another example of resurrection. This Egyptian myth dates back to the pyramid texts, approximately 2400 BCE. Each evening, as darkness falls, the sun god Ra descends into the underworld, where fierce monsters lurk, and chaos tries to consume him. Ra confronts his greatest enemy, Apophis, a serpent of pure darkness. Serpent represents evil in many distinct traditions. But Ra, unwavering, wields his power to defeat Apophis. He emerges triumphant each dawn, reborn to light the world anew. The Egyptians watched each sunrise as a sign of his daily resurrection, a symbol of courage and renewal. Ra's rebirth was a promise that darkness would never last, a divine resurrection repeating with every morning. Osiris and Ra's stories became central to Egyptian rituals and moral codes. Osiris, as a resurrected god, became the judge of the dead, encouraging Egyptians to live righteously to ensure a place in the afterlife. Ra's daily rebirth as the sun also had mystical connotations, embodying the continual cycle of death and renewal. I hope you enjoyed this video and discovered some new and captivating ideas today. I am deeply grateful to everyone who supports me. If you haven't yet and would like to, please support me by links below or by using the Super Thanks button on YouTube. Thank you for every like, comment, and subscription. See you in my next video.